This is a test of the City of Palaca audio system.
Welcome to the City of Palaca special called meeting on July 8th, 2024 at 9 a.m. The meeting's being called to order. We're going to have the invocation by Pastor Mulberry and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner McCaskill.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you again for this day. We thank you for your love and kindness and for the multitude of your tender mercy. Here we are this morning, God, to be here in this session. Again, we pray your wisdom, your guidance, and your directions be upon us. Give us to know, God, that we are your people and we represent you, and keep us mindful of that. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Ms. Krantz.
Commissioner Tammy McCaskill. Here. Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Present.
Commissioner Will Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Rufus Borum.
Present.
Mayor Robbie Correa.
Present.
All members are present and accounted for, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. Could you also please read the special call meeting notice?
Yes, ma'am. To Commissioners Tammy McCaskill, Will Jones, and Rufus Borum, you're hereby notified a special called meeting of the Palaca City Commission is hereby called to be held on July 8th, 2024 at 9 a.m. at City Hall, 201 North 2nd Street, Palaca, Florida, 32177. The purpose of the meeting is for discussion and action regarding the city manager, Troy Bell's employment with the city. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Signed, Justin R. Campbell, Sr., Commissioner Group 2, and Roberta M. Correa, Mayor.
Thank you. I am going to open the floor to public comments. Ms. Kitchens?
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palaca, Florida. I just want the public to understand that the only discussion we're going to have is under public comments. So if they want to speak, they need to speak now and not wait for the item. My favorite Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler, has these words of advice from an old gambler to a new one. You have to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. In April of this year, 3 of you gambled that Mr. Bell, in spite of his history with other cities, with the state of Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulations and the South Florida Water Management District, would become a new man and act differently here. You gambled and lost. The city staff lost. You lost city staff, and the citizens of Palaca lost. His dismal regard for city policy, his not performing the duties of city manager as spelled out in the city code, and last but not least, his apparent utter contempt of and disregard for your authority as the governing body of the city of Palaca give you only one course of action. You've been gambling on Bell since April. Now is the time for you to not only walk away, but to run from the city manager, Troy Bell's contract, and terminate him effective immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shanker, please give your name and address for the record. 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Shelley Shanker, and I live at 287 East River Road in East Palaca. My comments and compliments are in support of Troy Bell. This is the first time I've ever felt compelled to go to a city hall meeting, but I feel very strongly about the process and Troy in particular. In many cities I've called home, I've rarely had the opportunity to actually meet or have dealings with a city manager, but because Mr. Bell is in and around town so much, he's reaching out to everyone he meets, citizens, business owners, old Palaca blood, and the new people who are new residents like myself. He is spotted regularly on his way to St. Monica's at our festivals that he sponsors personally. He's patronizing our local businesses, supporting our civic organizations, and supporting our local artists, which I'm one of. Hiring anyone with the intention to scheme against that person, report incomplete stories to the media, and placing blame on them for projects and contracts that were out of his control, but placed before his time, I think is not only dishonest, but a terrible waste of our taxpayer money and time.
No clapping, please. We'll let people get through. Thank you. Ms. Wise?
My name
is Audrey Wise. I reside at 1610 Edgemore Street here in Palaca. I stand before you as a citizen of Palaca. I entrusted my vote and my support to this council. I trust your judgment. You took a chance and supposedly everyone reviewed the contract of Mr. Bell line by line. Your professional staff gave their opinion on the hiring or not of Mr. Bell. The council stood and they voted to employ him. I say to the council, those that viewed him as a risk for this town or a profit for this town, I ask that you would stand by your decision. I wouldn't say appalled, I am shocked that this city government allows the public opinion to dictate your job. I find it unimaginable. Whatever process or procedure you might have for requesting time off, has that process has that always been in place with the prior city manager? Do you sign off on all your employee vacation leave or whatever that is? Do you take in consideration, like the lady said before, Mr. Bell is on and around this town 24/7 most of the time, event-wise, weekends. Do you consider that comp time or do you consider that his regular time? I think his hours are 40 hours. I'm not sure, but I know he has worked more than 40 hours. I'm asking you, find in your heart what we are asking you to do. Turn this town in a way of a positivity. You're in the middle of a budget year. You're going to dismiss someone or consider dismissing someone within that time. Think about what you're doing. And if there is reprimand that has to be done, do it in a situation where the public is not involved in your business. I mean, I have never been in corporate America and saw the information, I wouldn't say leak because it's public opinion. I mean, it's information wise, you have the right to do it, but not to do it and air your business with an individual as public as this. If you weren't a person that resigned in Palaca, everybody's looking at that paper or reading these news. What is going on here? I'm not saying it's dysfunctionalness, but I think we need to start acting as a family, as a community. We trusted you with our vote. We're asking you to do what is right. Personal agendas has nothing to do with this. Our vote to you, our confidence in you is there. All I'm saying to you is don't come in with your opinion already made. You ask for public opinion. You ask for public to come and speak. Hear us, feel us, understand. We understand if things has to be worked out. We get it. But do it in a way that's fitting and in order. For all. We're all in this thing together. We all love Palaca. You do too. Take a risk and stand by your conviction, for or against. Thank you.
Ms. Roach?
Cheryl Roach, 312 Dodge Street. I'm saddened, tired, and disgusted by this current situation seemingly to be of days past. Another possible termination of a city manager? Do you even consider how this drains the city, its employees, and its residents? What now? A slap on the hand for the current manager? Termination to start all over again? More of the same bickering by commissioners who should be looking forward and also looking internally to come to the realization that your actions are hurting us all. It is time to say that in today's environment, the commission has the technology to stay current on all city doings. Stop blaming city employees for your lack of preparation and research. Stop polarizing the citizens with your perceptions of misdeeds and good old boys culture. This is the 21st century with social justice at the forefront. Be trailblazers. Embrace all the opportunities that Palatka holds and stop the games of yesterday. I personally have had good experiences with Mr. Bell. He listened to me. He helped me with a few issues that made a difference in the city. I am well aware of all the question marks during his vetting and after. His probationary period has not been the best. This latest infraction pertaining to work-life integration is at the pulse of office culture in today's work environment. Bottom line, please consider all the loyal city employees who come into the office 5 days a week and are trying to stay on track for the betterment of the city. It is time to stop the drama. I implore you to make a final decision. Stick with it. Don't put the city on hold again. Continue moving forward with the land swap of the River Center, the property across the street. Continue with the St. John Avenue improvements and streetscaping. Make sure the marina deal is held up. Continue fighting to bring all the city's neighborhoods and parks up to par. Do not be dragged down again by internal bickering that makes all of you and the city of Palatka look bad, look poor, and look dismal. I firmly believe the citizens want better.
Ms. Gibbons? At the very end of this? Well, there's only one more call, so, okay, just checking. Mr. Vickers?
Good morning to all of you. Askew Vickers, 207 North 18th Street. I'm appalled that you would have us to come here early in the morning with something that's not even worth talking about. There's more issues that you should be addressing besides something that about time not being taken care of the way he's supposed to. There have been other instances where you overlooked things and didn't do anything about it. We have too many things that we have to approach and need to be fixed. Your infrastructure is bad. You don't do anything about it. You haven't built anything to accommodate us as a patient here, not a pupil here, to come to your meetings. You have not constructed a building for a city hall ever. This used to be the post office. You got the post office next door. You got a jail that's in disarray. You don't have no place to put anything. You don't have your infrastructure, cutting grass. I've been here over 40-some years. Nobody has ever cut the grass. The trees have overgrown into the street. But you won't tell us that we have to do something, because if we have cars that are not being moved, grass not cut, you can give us a fine for that. This is not right. How can you say that when you had a city manager, a mayor, and an attorney who collected 3 checks and you didn't do anything to him? But you're gonna say something about him because time not being put into proper way. It's appalling to us to sit here and you get us up at 9 o'clock in the morning to come here to listen to y'all bicker about something that's not even worth talking about. Thank you.
Mr. Cobbs?
Good morning. First of all, if you look back on your, my name is William Cobb, 1310 Bronson Street. If you, nice to meet you, Mayor, and all of you. I am the unofficial mayor of East Palatka. when I found out about, I did get a chance to meet with Mr. Troy different times, and he was very professional. But the main thing is this. It kind of goes back to, we need to get this, that old system out. I'm very proud to have so many African Americans on this board, but it's not all about that. It's about doing the right thing. And the thing about getting this guy go for that is just crazy. But let's do the right thing. This is not a reason to turn this man's life upside down for something like that. But I do have, unless we, get on our knees and get praying, I do know when this is gonna stop. I know when whites and blacks is gonna get along, but we can change that. Now, let me tell you when they're gonna get along and when they're gonna do the right thing. When women stop chasing men and roosters stop chasing hen and Joe Louis become our champ again.
Miss Givens?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tarsha Givens. I live at 225 Stillwell Avenue here in Palaca, Florida. Please do not try to retaliate or mess with me or my family or anybody attached to me. I'm just warning you up front. This is what I have to say. We, the people, the citizens of Palaca, would like transparency and full disclosure to help maintain the integrity of the city of Palaca. Number one, my question is, who called this meeting? Number two, why was this meeting really called? Was this special meeting called with enough proper notice given to notify the public? I would like to know the protocol on that, because Thursday was the 4th of July, which was a holiday. Then Friday, some people traveled, went out of town, didn't return. So I like answers on that. I have some questions. I was here the night that Mr. Troy Bell was actually sworn in. I witnessed him being sworn in. Now, I'm gonna ask y'all this. Did anybody come down and shake Mr. Troy's hand or welcome him as our new city manager? It's on the video. Everybody can go back and watch it. I never recalled the mayor coming down to shake Mr. Troy Bell's hand and welcome him. Now, what I do recall, I recall his parents that were here and the gentleman that was featured in the Palaca Daily News. Make sure y'all highlight this in the paper too, because the newspaper tend to be biased. And we need to tell the truth and the whole truth. So before I wrap up, I believe this meeting is a distraction for what the real issue is. Since you've been hired here, Mr. Bell, not once have you been welcomed, not in the public eye, by your mayor, our mayor. And I would like to know why you called this meeting. This is something that could have been settled privately. I mean, he is working. I think the real issue here is the fact that Mr. Bell is currently investigating your assistant city manager for code of ethics violations. In addition to that, I believe he's been investigated for personal gains. So these are things that all of a sudden we had a meeting scheduled for Tuesday at 9 o'clock concerning the St. John's River Center. Then we get a notice Friday, at least I did on my phone from the city, saying now we have this special call meeting concerning the employment of the city manager. My question is, what's the real issue here? We want full transparency and we want to know what's going on concerning this investigation. Because if you go back to the last meeting, there was an older gentleman named Mr. Wise that came forward and he mentioned some discrepancies with the zoning and the map. Do y'all recall that? Okay. All that is on the investigation, am I correct? It's being looked into for ethics violations. Because when we work for the city, right? If I have employment with the city, for example, if I am the assistant city manager, do I have the responsibility to disclose my personal business dealings before the city and the city commission, before these business transactions take place? These are my questions that I have. So why are we really here? Thank you.
Jason Brown.
Jason Brown, 1609 St. John's Avenue, Palaca, Florida. Mr. Bill, it's nice to meet you. I've never met you, sir. The only concern I have is that I was gone this week and I was in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I started getting posts, kind of getting text and hit back saying, hey, do you hear this? Have you seen this? Didn't know much about it, what was going on. I did hear some things in the beginning of employment, and I don't like listening to hearsay. So it is what it is. I stay off social media as much as I possibly can, but I own a business and I don't watch the news. So it is what it is. But when I started getting hit with things, my concern is that it's on a Thursday, kind of like you explained. Why is this such a quick and responsive thing? I'd like to at least get some information to get to know Mr. Bill. I am a local owner, and they're making improvements on St. John's Avenue right now. Yes, it is making a little bit of hardship for me and my business, but it's okay. With that has to happen to make growth. But there's a lot of people that hit me up on social media and say, hey, Jason, or say something and be like, hey, I guess I'm one of them people. When I hear things, I'll make a point to come to a meeting and say, hey, I'd like to have a little bit of time. I also asked for this at another meeting in the county and kind of got thrown off to the side. But this is how I work. If I can get some answers or talk to different people, then it may make a difference. Again, I don't know what's going on here. I'd like to find out what's happening. So I'm just curious if there's additional timing that could be had to maybe look into it as business owners in town that are just finding out about certain things. And like I said, I don't take the time to worry about little bickering things. I have a business to run. I'm not worried about bickering things. Yes, it is the city, but I'm just trying to figure out what's happening now. I just came back from North Carolina, like I told you, and had 7 hours to look at what was being posted. So thank y'all for your time. Mr. Bell, it's very nice to meet you. Hopefully I can meet you again. Y'all have a good day.
Mary Lawson Brown.
I had said one time I wasn't gonna get up and say anything. I really came because I wanted to know both sides of the story. I sat there for many years, and my concern is if we lose a city manager, how far back will that take the city? I sat there, I know that we interviewed at least and hired at least 5 people and dismissed them because we didn't get what we thought we wanted. I have been with Mr. Bell and tried to talk with him and see what this town needed. He seems to know about economic development, and that's one of the things. I know that some of the staff has not been happy with him because they don't realize he's boss. And if they don't give him respect, he can't get respect from other folks. I'd like for, I wanted to speak after you all talked to us and told us how you felt about doing it. But Allegra got up and said we couldn't say anything afterwards. I'd like to know the whole story so that we can make a real good decision and understand in which direction our city commission is going. I know what kind of job you have. I had it for a little while. And I love this town, and I feel like all of you all have been all my family. I call y'all my children. You too, Mayor. You weren't there when I was there, but I call all of you all my children. And I hope that whatever we need to do will be to move the city along. We need to keep us together. I'd like to remind staff, when we work together, we do well together. Amen. When you fight people from the inside, it catches up with you. My grandmom used to say, when you dig one ditch, dig two. Because there are things that if you have something that's upsetting or you don't like how it works, go sit down and talk to your city manager. He can't change things. And then maybe sometimes the reason he did it, you need to understand. We worked very well. We didn't have this big a staff when I was here. And I sat by 2 people, all the people almost, but the last attorney they had. And we used to laugh because things come in, I'd kick them under the table. They finally told on me. So when I wanted to get their attention and know something, I used to just tap them under the table. So sometimes we just kind of tap each other under the table to get a better understanding. You are a family, and if you act like a family, you can get more done. No man is an island. No man stands alone. Each man's joy is joy to me. Each man's grief is my own. We need one another. So I will depend. Each man as my brother. Each man as my friend. Think about it. We all need each other.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. On to regular business, discussion and action regarding city manager Troy Bell's employment with the city. Commissioner Campbell?
To address the question, who called the meeting? I did. In order for us to have a meeting of sorts, it's only can happen two ways. It's either the mayor can call for a meeting, or it has to be two commissioners that calls for a meeting. My call for this meeting is to make sure there's a contract in place. But if you all think about it, coming up in August, we have a decision to make. So ultimately, if we, as the decision makers to hire Mr. Bell, we have a duty to make sure that as we lead, that we lead with integrity, transparency. So the reason I called for the meeting ultimately was not to fire Mr. Bell. As you can remember, even though there are things, and we can talk about them, and you can go back and look at the various meetings, we all have some things that we don't care for, things of that nature. I myself have had conversations with Mr. Bell. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago where we were to provide direction to the city manager. As a result, between now and the time of the 180 days or the 6 months contract, there is not an opportunity for us to come and talk amongst ourselves in a forum. I don't know if you all understand, but there's something that's called sunshine. Sunshine law is something that states I am not allowed to talk to Commissioner Jones. I'm not allowed to talk to any of my colleagues unless it is in an open forum. So I want that to be made clear. So this conversation, I want to hear where we go from here. There have been some things that have been put in the media that needs to be addressed one way or another. However, we can't address those things going just to talk to him. Some things are a policy issue. So again, this meeting is a part of our job. As you all work on your jobs, I'm quite sure there are meetings that you go into that you don't know you're going into, but you have to go into them because guess what? It's a part of your job. You don't always get a notice to have the public opinion when you go on your job. This is my job. I take my job serious. He has a job. That is our only employee. So as a result of him being our only employee, we have to do what we have to do in a manner that we have to do it. So being here, we're grateful that we have you all here on a Tuesday morning on a Monday morning, Monday morning at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. However, this is a part of our job, right? Assumptions came in just like nobody wanted us to come in with preconceived notions of wanting to fire. That was an assumption that was made. This meeting is to have a dialogue amongst the individuals who sit beside me, walk beside me to make the best decision for this community as we move forward. So that's why we're here. So if anyone said, oh, we're coming here to fire, that was your own public opinion. I received no phone calls to say, hey, Commissioner Campbell, what's your intent? Blase, blase, blase. But now that we're here, this meeting is called so that we can have the necessary conversations to move forward, regardless of my personal opinion. I've always sat behind this dais and tried to be as completely transparent as possible when it comes down to anything that has come before us as a commission. My job ultimately that I was entrusted to is to make sure as we grow that we move this city forward, that we move this city forward collectively. And again, with the sunshine law being in place, we're not able to have these conversations amongst ourselves. I can go talk to Mr. Bell, I can go talk to staff until I'm blue in the face. But until we are able to have open and candid conversations with with my fellow commissioners to see where their minds are, where the direction is that we all want to collectively go, that's why we're here today. There's no hitting agendas. There's no nothing stating that somebody came to me to do this, that, and third. There's nothing there. This meeting is for transparency and for us to have a conversation as a whole to the direction of where we would like to go with regards to the employment of our city manager.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Then I want to know who called the meeting.
No, and Commissioner Campbell answered that. Again, it requires two on this. It requires two, I'm sorry. It requires two on this commission to call a meeting, Commissioner Campbell, and then I co-signed it, basically. So that's how it went. I mean, it could have been, generally the mayor does sign off, but it could be two commissioners as well. And a 24-hour notice is kind of the minimum standard. And the notice was sent out on Friday, so we met that 24-hour meeting notice. And because the probationary period ends on August 7th, the 180 days of Mr. Bell's contract, we also only have one commission meeting between now and then. So again, because we do need to discuss performance, and this is the only venue we can do this in, that is why we scheduled it in advance of the commission meeting and prior to the probationary period ending. Commissioner?
Well, I'm just completely lost about this whole thing. I got caught broadsided with the meeting, what have you, didn't know anything about it. But anyways, as it relates to, you said performance, then we got here employment contract, and then they also talked about time off. So things are all over the place right now. So I'm just saying things are all over the place in terms of why we're here. The meeting was abrupt, and we had a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, but this came up. So I just need to know why we're here to discuss anything as it relates to these things, which I know we can call a meeting at any time. We can even have an executive session. We can have a closed session. It doesn't have to be, we can have a closed session. We can have a closed session. When it comes to talking about time off, this meeting is a distraction, in my opinion. So I don't know why we're here talking about this. We could have done this in another way. I'm just confused.
Okay,
Mayor,
Commissioner Campbell, go ahead.
Mayor, with due respect, I want to bring a little bit of clarity as to, again, because I don't want anyone to make it feel as if I have a hidden agenda. Let me give you a breakdown of how we got here. I never have a problem with explaining my position. I made a phone call into City Hall. I asked the process to ensure that I had the process. My conversation was to have the conversation about moving forth, because again, we've had the meeting with Mr. Bell. There was some things that were supposed to stem out of the meeting as far as the workshop. We don't have the ability, there's nothing scheduled to have the conversation with regards to Mr. Bell prior to his contract. I asked, there was a time frame of when did we want it. I said it's whenever, right? I said whenever. The additional stuff that was put on here was not put on here by me. The time off, all of that stuff was not added by me. I simply I wanted to have a conversation and hear my colleagues. When I got the additional stuff, again, was not added by me. So the meeting that's scheduled for tomorrow, in my book, has nothing to do with today. Nothing to do with today. It's not any ploy, it's not anything. The meeting, initially when I made the contact with the city clerk, again, I wanted to make sure that it was to talk about Mr. Bell's employment. I had nothing to say, and Sonny, please correct me if I'm wrong, with regards to the additional attachments that are onto this meeting.
They were requested by Mayor Craig.
Thank you.
Yes, they were, when we got to me. Everybody should have an opportunity to see the full contract. I feel, again, for the sake of transparency, you should see the contract. You should all know what we're looking at. And so, please, Commissioner McCaskill?
Thank you. I think we need to address some questions that Ms. Givens had. We did answer the notification. I did ask Sunny about proper notification as well as legal to consult to make sure that we did notice this meeting properly and in a timely fashion. And Sunny, if you can speak to that so that we can get clarification about the notice process, if you don't mind. Is that okay, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
That she responds to that first.
The Sunshine Law governs reasonable notice. The Sunshine Law indicates reasonable notice must be given to the public. Reasonable has been defined in different ways under courts of law. However, given the situation that it is, it's up to the person calling the meeting to determine what is reasonable in that situation, because reasonable can be a gray area. In my experience as a city clerk and a certified city clerk, I have not seen a situation, unless it's a dire emergency, that anything under 24 hours be called reasonable. That is what I told the people that called the meeting.
Okay, and I did have a sit down with Mrs. Krantz to make sure that we properly noticed and to see if the Mr. Bell needed to be here because it was regarding his employment. Also, I want to address, because I see it's on here and I see that Mayor Carrera put it on here, the time off. I do want to share that I have done some research, lots of research regarding his time off because concerns were brought to me. And I'll just share that we owe it to the citizens when we have concerns to get justification as well as clarification. My concern is his absenteeism, if it provided a difficult work environment for the organization. So because that's on here, that's one of the concerns that I would like to make sure that we discuss and talk about, because we do have Mr. Bell as well as staff involved and concerns that were brought to me. So that's what I have to say right now about the time off and the absenteeism. I think it's important to know whether or not his absenteeism caused for a difficult work environment.
Thank you. Do we want to start by, we had outlined some goals. How do we want to
Haven't
move
heard from
forward?
you.
Go
Again,
I do have a question.
ahead.
You said one of the reasons you called the meeting was because you feel that it was very important for the public to see his contract.
I said it was, I said one of the reasons, I didn't say that was the reason for calling meeting, I said
One
for the
reason.
attachments.
Okay. And it
We
was-
all need to be familiar with the contract. I think people have had questions. They may not be in this audience, but I've gotten a lot of questions, a lot of emails asking about the process. And it isn't as clear as it should be. And a reason for sharing this contract, it clearly spells out at the time of hire, he gets 20 days plus 1 day per month sick time, 20 days personal vacation leave plus 1 day of sick time, but it does not specify how the time is requested. And historically, there's been emails just sent by the city manager when they take time off. And that's been a trust honor system that could be fine. I honestly was not noticed or did not receive an email from Mr. Bell till Saturday. He had taken Friday and Saturday off. That was a concern for mine, and it may be because the policy is not clear. We need to clear that. I have the email right here. I received it Saturday morning.
If we can
did.
kind of do it in chunks, I kind of did a little research on that as well. If
Go
I
ahead,
may.
Commissioner Council.
Okay. So I went to HR, our generalist, and I wanted her to print out how the processes have been done prior, always. And she printed out that Mr. Holmes, Mr. Griffith, and Mr. Bell. And when time off is requested, she is the one that normally signs off on them, and that has been the way it's been done. Sunny, our city clerk, is our backup in that process. So in printing these documents, I've noticed that she has been the one that she'll get noticed from the city manager that he wants to take time off, or she, because we've had a female interim, take time off, and she goes in and she approves it or not. The only time that it has been done different was on February 28th. I see Sunny signed off for Mr. Bell on that day, and I asked, why was Sunny signing off versus Mrs. Jones? And Mrs. Jones looked it up and she was absent. But nothing has been done different as far as the processes of requesting or approving a city manager's time off. And it would be good if I can give this to you so that other commissioners can have it. Each one has their name on the top, and on the side right here is where you sign off for Mr. Bell on the 28th. I hope that kind of answers that.
And I wasn't saying anything differently. What I was saying is that I wasn't aware. I don't sign off. We don't sign off. It's our only employee.
Okay.
To me, we may need to change the policy, but that aside, I received my email from Mr. Bell saying he wasn't here.
Okay.
I did not know until Saturday.
It hadn't been done any different. Miss,
In fact, it hadn't
did
been done in the
receive-
whole 10 years I've been here.
it has what now?
It had not been done like that the whole 10 years I've been here in terms of having to sign off. I mean, that we sign off on anything, or we
Exactly.
or they'll normally let us know that they're gonna be taking time off, and that be it. There's no real constraints.
So
I did also ask so that it can come from the generalist, human resources. I received, and it's in our packet here, the time off that he has requested. And what the description of his request since he's been employed. And I needed her, in her words, to break it down and give a synopsis to explain. If I may give this to the clerk so that all of us can have the same thing, because I needed to understand that as well. Again, 20 days off, according to his contract, he is under those 20 days off. I do have to bring up a concern that was brought to my attention by the generalist, since we're talking about time off. We have a attachment in our packet. Mr. Bell, that says we have 13 records of his requested time off. It was brought to my attention by the generalist that it's actually 15 days, but he's still within his 20-day vacation period timeframe, but that's not on here. I just wanted to make sure that I bring that to the attention of my fellow commissioners, because it was brought to my attention that on February 15th, he sent an email out reminding us that he will be out on the 15th and the 16th, but we kind of missed it on this form. So we do have 15 days just to correct and make sure we're transparent that it's 15 days off versus 13. I'm making sure that you get this, if you don't mind, so that everybody has a copy of that reminding us that he did let us know that he would be off. I did ask Human Resources, did he take that time off? And she said yes. So we just need to make sure we add that there.
Yes, Commissioner Jones.
reference to the days off. Thank you for that, Ms. McCaskill. I appreciate that. For the days off, I think that, I don't know, and Mr. Bell could answer this if need be, but I'm just saying from personal perception and observation, I think Mr. Bell have worked. I'm gonna just give one example, and that's Memorial Day weekend with the Blue Crab Festival. Mr. Bell was out at the Blue Crab from the beginning to end every day that I went out there. So do we really pay him for every hour that he's not at his office and don't give him credit for the hours that he's working extra? That's gonna be a tough act of balance of how if we're being fair, because compensation is compensation. We haven't talked about any comp days for he or any other employees, but I guarantee you, if a firefighter go out there we're gonna have to pay them. Anyone else go out there, they're gonna be compensated. So on that, we do need some clarification. This policy, what I see here is an opportunity for us to create policy. We're policy makers. So instead of pointing fingers, I think we need to be solutionists. Okay, so there's a solution to this problem. And we sit down like the people that these voters put us up here to be and resolve this issue in a manner where we can be fair. Again, if I could just take those 3 days and we probably owe Mr. Bell some time back. Secondly, I would like to add, if nobody from this dais have been signing off on Mr. Bell's time, I think we need to look at our own accountability system. We're accountable for one hire. So I always have assumed that it was the chairperson, the mayor, that actually directly does this. Now we understand it's not, but we can put that into the policy so that it won't be, well, I didn't know about it. In the paper, it looked very bad that it was stated, we don't know where Mr. Bell is, when in fact we knew where Mr. Bell was. Mr. Bell was out. Mr. Bell asked, well, I knew. I can't say we because I can't speak for everybody else. Mr. Bell said that he was going to take time out and he was going to be off for a week. And he did so. I specifically told Mr. Bell to talk to Commissioner Bourne because Bourne had a question about time off in our last meeting. He said he would do that, do such, and I said, I didn't have any problem with you taking time off because you are afforded those 20 days and you're within your time. Families first. He even said that he would work from home while he was out. But I know he was doing other work as he gave us a synopsis, I think just as last evening, of some of his work. So we can't allow the newspaper to control how we work up here. We work independently. We could read into those things, but take them as what they are. And I think this commission have sat back, read, analyzed, did our research, and we are forming our own opinions of what actually happened. This is a wealth of knowledge, things that we hadn't thoroughly known as a process that Ms. McCaskey just brought out to help us go forward and move forward. And I appreciate it. But I want to say that on Mr. Bell's behalf, because I have observed those things in his time. And if need be, I guess this is something that need to be a policy of how compensation will be done as far as over the 40 hours or outside the office work. I even told him one time, I feel you're politicking, you're in the public a little too much, I think. But you know, it's good because you have these people out here today that can attest to the time that you have been working in the community. And that's all I have to say on that, the time.
Commissioner.
Yes, I know you mentioned, I said something about time off, but that was way before this meeting as it related to not to do anything with a termination or anything with his employment. My thing with the time off had to do with when you're coming on, you're under your probationary period and the number of times that you're off as it relates to city business, but nothing ever to speak to him about anything as it related to his employment, because I do know Mr. Bell is always out in the community. He's working. He's been at every one of my town halls, front to back. He has also been in the community with all of the various events. So I think they know Mr. Bell a little bit better than they know some of the commissioners. So with that being, well, I'm just saying he's always out. So we're here for a different reason for whatever. It's a distraction on the day, and we should not be here talking about this time off. We need to be trying to put together a policy as it relates to how Mr. Bell put his time in, or whoever the city manager is, put their time in and let us know. but not that it should be some big deal in the newspaper and everything else. I think this whole thing was blown out of proportion.
Ms. McCaskill?
Okay, I don't wanna, I wholeheartedly agree that he has been very active in the community, and I really appreciate that, and it appears that the citizens as well. But we have to be mindful also, just the concerns that were brought to me about the community versus being here within the organization and providing for a difficult work environment. And that's just what the concerns were brought to me. I don't know, I'm not in here working during the day-to-day operations. However, when it's brought to my attention that it may have provided for a difficult work environment, it is my duty as a commissioner to address the concerns. And I think we can talk about that here. And that needs to be considered as part of the policy. Are we going to recognize or state office hours if we want him here from 9 to 5, to support staff, or however, just consider it and talk about what is it going to look like when we create this policy. I would like to recognize that he did pass me a note reminding me that upon his hire, he did inform the commission that he would be off on the 15th and the 16th, but I wanted to just make a correction that we have 13 records. It's actually 15 days, but you're still within your time. I also want to talk to what Mr. Jones brought up about him being out in the community and compensation. I want the community to know that we don't compel him to go out and do that. That's on his own, and we appreciate that. So you're asking for comp time or whatever, I just need clarification. We appreciate him going out, but that's what he does. We don't demand that he goes out. It's a good thing, it's a good practice, but that's on his own.
Commissioner Tamble?
And again, I want to make it clear that it's not a ploy to do anything or distract anything. As you all could notice, even from this dialogue, these are things that we can't talk about unless the form is provided. And so once again, from this, it's where do we go from here? There are several things. Again, I stand behind what Commissioner McCaskill has stated with regards to the 15 days, but you're 15 days in with only 5 days left. And so how do we go from here? And those are things that we have to address rather sooner than later. And again, within that contractual period, if there's any way that we can come to a resolution, that is what we're supposed to do as legislators that governs Mr. Bell. So again, the whole thing, I never brought up his attendance because on the conversation with Mr. Bell, what did I say, Mr. Bell? I don't macromanage like that. But when it comes down to policy and procedures, that's where I talk about the employment. I could have my own personal feelings about anything, but when it comes down to the personal policy of how things are done, when it comes down to the personal policy of how things are being leaked out of City Hall, those are things that we have to get down to the bottom of. And these are the meetings that we're able to have those conversations. So not every meeting that we have is to cover up something. It's to bring light to a whole lot of things. And I thank you, Ms. Gibbons. You brought a light to something that, again, Mr. Bell, that information wasn't given to Mr. Bell. Mr. Bell has acted on it and has given us whatever it is. But as of now, our conversation today was with the direction, because again, we did have a meeting and we left that meeting with the notion that we were going to give Mr. Bell direction, right? And so given what the newspaper has put out, what more opportune time to have the conversation, right? Everyone is keyed in on to what's happening today. Tomorrow, that's still going to happen regardless of the meeting would have happened today, tomorrow, or the day and after. They would have said if it happened after that meeting yesterday, that it probably would have still been a ploy too. But then again, as legislators, we have a duty. And what better way to have this meeting than to have it so that we can go ahead and come up with a plan of moving forward.
Okay, I agree with everything. I think, again, the bottom line here is our policy and procedure so that everybody knows upfront what the expectation is. It wasn't clear. Obviously, this is our own employee that has been stated several times, the city manager. And when this commission is not authorizing the time off, it can be projected ahead. I know that that's done in many. You usually submit your time off requests a little bit in advance, unless it's an emergency, of course. And you are able to get that authorized and everybody knows what's going on. Again, for the sake of organization, transparency for both the public and the people that work here, folks need to know what to expect. And if it's an emergency, as I said, that you don't get that notice, but if it can be planned for, if you have to travel, you have to buy a ticket, you have to plan. And that's all we're asking. I think we need to have a procedure that's clear and planful, so the city manager and all of us know what's going on. The people that are approving time off work for the city manager. That puts them in an awkward position too. It does make more sense for this board to be approving the time off in advance. And again, that hasn't, in fairness to Mr. Bell, been the procedure. It's been pretty open-ended, but I think we need to clarify that for his sake as well as all of ours.
But I also want to put on the record, Mayor, that with regards to a special call meeting, if the availability of the commission were not that they would not be able to be here today, that could have been stated as well. So I don't want you to feel as if just because the meeting was called, I was open to whenever the meeting was called. The suggestion came from the mayor. But if the ability of the commissioners, they were now able to be here, that could have been also addressed so that the mere fact that they're here, regardless of if they think it is or not important, they're here. But again, these are things that as commission, as legislators of this community, that we have, there are things that we have to do. It may not always be to the benefit of our constituents, but again, we still have a duty to do, regardless of it makes you mad that we're doing stuff in a time frame that may not have been given to you or that may not be appeasing to you. But then again, we still have a duty to do so that we can carry on with the business of the city.
Commissioner Howard?
Well, most time in a special call meeting, you're trying to really accomplish a specific thing. And basically, you can have the mayor or two commissioners call that meeting, and irregardless of whether you have two or what, it doesn't matter if all five are here. When you call a special call meeting, it can be two people, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it can be two people. It doesn't have to even be. So when you call a special call, excuse me.
It takes two people to call a specially called meeting unless it's the mayor. She can individually call a specially called meeting. However, since you are taking action, you still do need a quorum in order to have the meeting.
Right, but you don't have to have all five. So that's, in some cases, when special call meetings are called for specific things, irregardless of who's available, and sometimes that can be not a good thing.
But again, when we, and I want to bring this back and I'll be done. When we talk about the employment with the city, the things that we talk about or that we have talked about today, regardless of if we think it's minor or minor, if we think it's big, again, with his employment, these are things that need to be ironed out rather sooner than later. And I don't want us to get into the job of nitpicking when and when not where to do things, because it's not as a convenience to everyone. But then again, the employment, a part of employment, it comes with time, it comes with how things are done, it comes with policies and procedures. And if we on our end, as Commissioner Jones say, if we got to take accountability of ourselves and take action so that as Mr. Bell move forth or as any other employee move forward, they're moving forward with clarity. And they're not moving forward with that gray area to where if the newspaper picked this up or citizens pick this up, that they're taking their own form of knowledge and applying it. But no, we're going to be able to relate it back to a policy. So this is a part of employment, regardless of it, Mr. Bell or anybody else. This is something that we have to address.
With all of that said, what do we want to do here as far as moving forward? We have talked about having more clear-cut instructions policy about requesting time off and who to request it from, so that we all know what's going on, so these issues can't come up again for anybody. What other, in regards to this contract, what other specific issues do we want to address? Because we are almost at the end of the probationary period. I think we need to be fair to Mr. Bell as well as this commission.
Well, what we currently have on the books that states that, I mean, we've been operating for a number of years as it relates to this, and I don't know what's unique about this that we need to change anything or whatever. If it is, then we need to understand and know what's the issue as it relates to the current HR policy. So do we have the current HR policy that we believe that we need to change right now?
Is Miss Jones here? No, she's
Madam.
not. But go ahead, Miss.
I think that would be good for her to come
Come
up.
up, that's what I'm
That was one of the
suggesting.
reasons I asked for a synopsis of this, the days off and how it works, the processes.
So
We need some guidance. We need some guidance.
Okay.
On how it works and moving forward, if we are the ones that's going to approve the city manager's time off, we have to keep in mind, if an emergency comes up, are we gonna be called in for a meeting to do it? And is that gonna hinder them? I just need to know.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
the
agree.
reason I'm asking.
Go
the
ahead, Miss
question.
Jones.
Okay, as it stands, Human Resources has been responsible for approving all city managers since my employ. And previous, that was the job on the approval letter for Human Resources to approve only the city managers, unless the city manager was out and wanted authorized HR to approve some of the people that work under him. So that's that policy. If it is the desire, yes,
I need to do it in chunks for me to get.
okay.
Some of the people under him. Currently, what we're living in,
Mhm.
if you are not the one that approves the time off, who does it defaults to?
For the Sunny, the city clerk.
The city clerk.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
Okay,
I believe that, excuse
if she can finish and then.
Please, yes.
Okay, so if I am not here to approve, then Sunny, it would default to Sunny to approve the city manager. So, and that's the only approval, latter part of that approval.
So I want the verbiage approval.
Mhm.
When we say approve, how does that look?
Okay, so requests come in, the city manager would input the days and the times that he is requesting to be off. Notification will be given to anybody in that approval ladder that this time has been requested.
So approval means you approve or deny. I just need to know what.
Yes.
Because usually when I request time off,
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see if it's approved or not.
Exactly.
So you determine whether or not he gets to take that
Yeah.
time off.
It's approved, yes.
That was my whole question in
Okay.
terms of, how does a subordinate get to tell their superior that they can take time off
Yeah.
or not?
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
And I can agree with that, Commissioner.
But here's what I got.
Okay.
Here is what I have. The city manager, in this case, Mr. Bell, and previous managers, generally, they let us know that they're gonna be out, they can send emails or whatever. It was never an issue. So in terms of a subordinate saying that they can deny time off, that does not, it's not logical. So yeah, we do have to address that right
Okay.
away.
Okay.
I think the policy actually says his supervisors
Yeah,
shall approve.
Okay.
Am I right or wrong?
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so here's what it is. It just haven't been happening,
Okay.
not just with Mr. Bell.
Mhm.
Right along.
With the,
in the
With all,
past.
yes.
Thank you.
So what has been happening is the practice is you guys just go in the timesheet and sign yes or no approval, so he get paid. But the approval of time off is up to this board, and that's always been the policy. We just have to start following policy.
And
That's why I say,
that's my issue.
and that's why I say, what changed? Why should it change? Because we were operating all these years and this is the first time it's come up to my knowledge.
If, and I will say, if it's the request of the commission, that is a small change that if the mayor, whomever is designated to receive, notifications, if the city manager were to put in requests and to be notified, that's a simple fix in our system. Your email address going in, anytime he puts in a request, it's gonna come to you. Now, you can simply, if you don't have the access to ADG, send it back to HR and said, I approve this time. So it's documentation to go with me to put in the A or put in a D. So it will definitely come from you all. So that's a very easy, it just hasn't something that has been done. From my understanding, the city manager sends out emails letting you all know when he's requesting time off. And if I don't get anything back saying nothing from him or responding, if he copies everybody in to say, no, we can't approve these days, then my assumption would be to approve his time in the system, as with any previous city manager.
Well, here's what I got. You can go to any organization or what have you, but he is the CEO of the city. It's no different than he was at IBM and the CEO. When they need their time off, they need time off. Adjustments can be made within to deal with whatever else. So this isn't, it's not a big deal.
Well, nobody's saying it's a big.
I know, but what I'm saying is, he is the CEO of this city. IBM, Hewlett Packard, school district, when they want, if a CEO want time off, they can take the time off. Period.
Nobody's disagreeing and nobody's saying they're gonna deny time off if the person has the time off. I was a public administrator too. The people that worked with me and for me did not authorize my time off. I had to send it up the food chain. So I'm just saying, we just need to clarify that. That's mine. We're just talking about the fact that we've had these things in place and we need to correct some of these. That's the purpose of this meeting.
All right, so no, that's a part of it. And I think in order for us
Go
to
ahead,
move
Commissioner.
forward, we've addressed that and that we've acknowledged that that's a part. But I still wanted to make sure as an employment, we had a meeting and that we promised Mr. Bell that we would give him direction of where we wanted to see him operate in this city. And I feel that it's advantageous for us to have that direction given to him prior to his probationary period ending. So as moving forward as a word of action, one, we addressed what we've talked about as far as the policy with regards to time off. But I also think that we need to come back and have that meeting with regards to the strategic plan, with regards to the strategic plan, having the mission and vision of the city so that we're able to clearly give direction to Mr. Bell so that he would be able to do what it is that we've asked. And again, we did not have a meeting prior to that was strictly set for that. So all of this meeting, the way it got hijacked, with regards to making it appear as if it was only regarding the attendance, I strictly referenced that we had a previous meeting that we said we were going to give direction. We have not planned that, and I feel that prior to the end of a probationary period, that we should have or give clear direction as to where we want him to operate so that he's not operating in a gray area, so that he has something tangible that we can revert back to and move forward. That would be my recommendation as we move forward with an action going forward.
I agree, and we should have been working on that for some time, but we do need to get that done. When the contract was signed, we had this whole time period and we kind of waited and waited. We started, we need to finish. Commissioner Boren.
Well, we wouldn't be talking about moving forward in this regard like that, because initially how everything even transpired we tried to slow things down up front, we wouldn't be here. But anyway, so that's, I mean, that's just where we're at right now. Everything was forced, and I think we've pushed to the point to where when there were times to give clear direction and move forward with different things, we should have, we have to set those dates and provide that. And we've given Mr. Bell some of the things. Again, he's got to put those together, and we got to move forward from there. But he's working on a few things already that he's brought before us, and that those are some of the things that we're going to have to deal with either sooner rather than later. I mean, he's been working on some things.
Can I say
Commissioner
something?
McCaskill, go ahead.
I know time is of the essence, but we do have to talk about some concerns. And if we can have them in an executive session, I would appreciate that. But, so we need to think about that too. I would like to have an executive session that we talk about some concerns that were brought to my attention, as well as the meeting that you're talking about, so that he'll have clear direction.
Miss West, is that
If I
something?
can provide some clarification, you can only have a closed door executive session that isn't subject to Florida Sunshine Law in two specific cases for pending litigation and union contract negotiations. You cannot have a closed door executive session to discuss employment.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Bell.
a couple of quick things I'd like to clarify. One of the acts of the HR manager when leave is put in is to check to make sure that there is sufficient amount of time in the leave bank. So that's part of the process. So if I'm hearing correctly, that there is a desire to have a policy to codify the current practices. And if that's the case, then staff can pull together that policy to codify current practices and bring that back. In saying that, there's two different issues that we have here. One is the leave request, and two, according to the charter, there's a requirement to give notice to the clerk when the city manager is disabled or unavailable. So those two issues have to be addressed in the policy statement. So I just wanted to make sure that I clarified that.
Well, couldn't we just, in addition to those things, add that it says your supervisor's in the policy. So we need to make a determination. We don't have to wait 2 weeks. We could do it now. Are we gonna have the city manager do the email to all commissioners to get a approval or denial? Or are we gonna say to the mayor, that's, you are the chairman of this board, which would we prefer?
And again, I don't think anybody's going to deny somebody time off as long as they have that time available.
But we
still
need to make a
for the day.
decision.
Yes.
So what is the flavor of this board?
Well, my take it would be is if when he wants time off, or whoever fills that role, take the time off, unless it's something that
He has to
he
prove
just
it.
absolutely have to be here. I don't think we need to complicate it.
No, but we're not, but
I know
by
exactly.
policy,
We're following the
he got to get approval, so how do you want to do the approval process?
Yeah, I mean, I say keep it simple.
So
Whatever that means, just keep it simple.
if I may, to just simplify that so that approval would come from you all, he's already sending out emails
Right.
notifying you all of time that he is requesting to be off. Simply by putting the chair of the commission on the approval ladder means unless there's a reply back to him saying you can't take this off and denying it, then she could simply send out an email. Just send out an email to HR, copying in the city manager saying, I approve this. With that email, it still gives me, because she won't have access to ADG, to go in and approve that. But then we have the approval from the commission, not just a subordinate of Mr. Bale or whomever the city manager may be, approving time.
And I think as much as possible, again, if you know you're going to be taking time off in a week or whatever that timeline is, just get it out to us as soon as you can, and then it's just done. And we don't have to think about it. It's
Mayor,
approved. Yes.
may I ask a question
Sure.
related to this process and also to human resources question?
Is it possible that we can just add whoever the supervisor is per the policy to ADG so that they have the capacity to approve within ADG so that human resources won't have to do it? I'm just asking.
They
a
can.
question.
Yes.
So that
Yes,
would be the.
and they already are
easiest-
in ADG. It would just be finance giving approval.
Right.
And then me adding them to the ladder. That's it.
Okay, so the direct process would be whoever is deemed
Yeah.
representative of supervisor in the policy. That individual should be given access in our software, ADG.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't need to
Okay,
make it very
and then
complicated either. Whatever
That
it
makes,
is.
no, it's not complicated. It makes it more direct and easier and to the point.
Think it's gonna put too many fingers in the pot.
Yeah.
If we do
Yeah.
it the way you said it,
Mhm.
it would be a much easier
Yeah.
and cleaner
Because,
process.
because the leave request can be printed off of ADG, the approval coming from whomever the chair is saying, I approve this. And then it's there and you will only be able to see the audit trail of who actually put that A or that withdrawal or that denial in there based on the email or correspondence that came back from the commission.
I think we can move on.
Okay.
Commissioner- Thank you. Commissioner McCaskill?
Knowing that we can't have an executive session regarding some concerns, I don't want to overlook that. Would it be? I guess I'm gonna have to say, call for an independent investigation through an outside agency regarding some concerns that were brought to my attention moving forward within the organization.
I think that's of great importance. And
That way, we can show that we're addressing the concerns that were brought to my attention and providing support for the city manager moving forward. It's gonna cost, but I want to call for an independent investigation.
Well, this, my understanding,
Well, we
the
reach
city
out to
manager
the
is
lead.
already,
No, we're
he's
talking about something
already,
different.
he's already in play for that, according to what I understand.
I'm talking about for him.
Oh,
That's not already in play.
for stake,
Concerns that,
Let
ahead.
Ms. McCaskill finish, please.
okay.
concerns that were brought to my attention regarding the practices of the city manager. I want to make sure that we address them by calling an independent investigation through an independent agency to show that we've addressed it and give that, we can reach out to the lead for direction. Maybe some,
I get where she's going, but I think in order for us, can we bring this to a resolve?
yes.
And then that be taken
Yes.
on in as an emergency item?
Oh.
But I think in order, my request still stands that prior to the end of the probationary period, that we give clear direction to Mr. Bell as to what it is where we're going, and that means there's 2 meetings that has to happen. We have to have the meeting with regards to the strategic plan,
Mhm.
mission, and vision, and then from there, then that's when we give the direction, which means those meetings has to happen within the next couple of weeks. So I have a recommendation. So the recommendation is the Thursday that we was not scheduled to have a meeting, that we utilize that time to speak to those 2 instances so that we will be able to move forward and give clear direction to Mr. Bell prior to the end of his probationary period, which is August the 7th.
So do you want that, are you suggesting that be a workshop or?
No, I don't
Which
want to
one
work.
meeting?
No.
Which one?
I don't want a workshop
No,
because in a
I'm sorry.
workshop, you cannot take action.
I
I
know,
want
that's why I wanna be clear.
I want it to be a meeting so that in the event action needs to be taken place, that we have the ability to do so and we no longer have to kick the can down the road. That would be my recommendation as regards to the employment of Mr. Bell, which is the reason why I called for this meeting, not solely for it to be focused on the absenteeism.
Is that the wish of the group to use that Thursday to do the meeting to discuss strategic goals?
What day is that?
The Thursday that we were not,
So we're
What day
meeting,
is
have
it,
a
Sunday?
commission meeting this week, so it will be the
It's
5th.
the 25th.
Right. Okay, is everybody okay with that so that we can move on? 25th.
Yeah.
25th. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good now.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
And that would give us approximately just under 2 weeks to get some things squared away.
Okay, Commissioner McCaskill was still speaking prior to that. We had a put closure. Did we reach closure on that?
I want to bring this to a resolve, which means we have to take action, which means we have to vote. So that was in the form of a motion.
Okay, second. We have a motion, and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you.
Commissioner McCaskill, I believe there is something of great importance
Yes.
that I feel like we should have the ability to open up for an emergency item because it's not listed on this. So with
Agenda.
regards to legal, is that something that we can do? I make a motion that we accept Commissioner McCaskill's recommendation to go into as an emergency item, and let's move forward with discussion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. McCaskill.
You're good.
Are you? Well, I was going to come
Well,
to
I was
Commissioner
trying to-
Warren.
What was the motion now?
The motion was
Emergency.
that an emergency
Oh,
item.
this, absolutely, yes. I just, cause I was,
Add an emergency item to the agenda, and Commissioner McCaskill was speaking before, so I was just going to let her finish before going to you, Commissioner.
So I'll need some guidance in this process. I want to call for an independent investigation from an outside agency because I have some concerns that were brought to my attention. So legal, and we have limited time. So how would we go through? How would we proceed with this process if I want to have an independent investigation done about concerns that were brought to my attention within the organization?
Commissioner McCaskill, I really do encourage you to reach to outside employment law counsel on this issue. As you know, Mr. Bell is my boss.
So just giving me some direction as how to, do I reach?
Consult your
out-
outside employment law firm. Mark's
Okay.
great, Susan Early.
Susan Erdely.
Is
So
there-
that's with the Florida League of Cities, if you all, so we.
Susan
consult with the
Erdely is
league.
with the Florida League of Cities, and she has been our outside counsel serving the city very well, as Commissioner Bourne can probably attest, for many, many years.
And let her give me guidance on this. So with that being said, if we, go ahead.
Let me help you.
Go ahead.
I've actually made a phone call to Attorney Elderly with regards to trying to seek direction. At the time, she was not available. She did give me a return call, but it was after hours when it was received. I would make the recommendation that we appoint someone to get the availability of Ms. Elderly, Attorney Elderly, so that if there are any questions that we deem to be asked, that we all are able to ask in an open forum. And if you desire as an independent commissioner to make that contact outside of that, I would also encourage that. But again, as a whole, I would make the recommendation that we move forth in that case, providing Sunny the opportunity just to only seek the availability of Ms. Elderly so that we would be able to have her available at the time of the meeting.
For the sake of time,
I have a
I've
question.
contacted her. I have gotten guidance that an outside investigation would be the direction to go in. So if we can appoint someone, if that's the will of the commission, for us to go in that direction for the sake of time, to make sure that we're being fair and impartial, so that he can have guidance moving forward and showing that we have addressed the concerns. So I have reached out. It's just a matter of the process of us, the taste of my board, if you all want to go in that direction of an investigation. We just need to say that and go ahead and reach back out to Mrs. Erdely.
I have a question of the city attorney. Would a conversation with the labor attorney be something that could be the subject of a executive session?
No.
Good question.
You can have those one-on-one conversations. You, of course, can talk to her all day long with one of the commissioners, but the second you bring another elected official in, sunshine is triggered.
Which is why I made the recommendation that if commissioners wanted to have that ability to speak to her, that we do so. But I do think it's very important that we move forward with the information that was received. I believe that once that information has been vetted, even the information that we received on last evening, it is of great importance that we do our due diligence as the legislative body to make sure that we leave zero stones unturned when it comes down to making sure that we address what comes before us. So I'm in full agreement, as stated, Commissioner McCaskill, it's the taste of how do we move forward. We have to.
Commissioner Jones.
I really hate to admit this, but you guys are talking across my head.
Well,
And listen, oh, you too?
yeah.
Because
Should be. Shows
oh,
we're not violating sunshine.
is that what it was meant to be?
Because you're not aware of the concerns that were brought to us, so it shows that we're not violating sunshine.
Okay,
It should
so
be over
great.
your head.
But, okay. So because there was something said in front of everybody, and Ms. Gibbons brought it to the dais, and she mentioned about there was an accusation made, and that can't go over my head.
Yes.
I heard an accusation that she made at this podium that really needs to be addressed and looked into. So
Go ahead, I'm
That
sorry.
is this a different independent investigation
It-
or one of the same? Because I think her concerns need to be looked into by an outside entity.
As well.
I second that.
And so before I finish, because, and let
No,
me
you-
finish. So with what she said in front of us in this crowd, in the paper, we need to look into any improprieties, any conflict of interest, dealings, business dealings, anybody that's in the decision-making process, and have it disclosed, and any problem that Mr. Bell have indicated that we need to support that and have a report presented to us and to the public, published to the public. So I move to have that happen
Wait,
in,
I think
I was
in
in the middle
addition to,
first. Oh,
I think we need clarification.
in addition to.
Oh, in addition to, okay, thank you, thank you. For clarifying.
That's full disclosure. Yes,
That is beyond the scope of the meeting notice that was called
Right.
here today.
okay.
I make a recommendation just to keep it.
I'll take it as
clean,
another
is
emergency
to
item.
Perhaps make another emergency, a motion for another emergency item. You can do that either here, or as you know, we have a regularly scheduled city commission.
We need to do it. We can't
So
wait.
make the motion.
Do it Thursday?
No, we
So
can't
go back
wait.
to Ms. McCaskill,
Thank you.
let's let her finish her thing.
so with that being said, I'm calling for an investigation based on the practices that were some issues that were brought to my attention regarding the practices of the city manager.
Second.
Okay. Do we, and so we.
He seconded.
Can we,
We have a
well,
motion.
for discussion?
Yes.
Well, you can't move to
No,
the
we-
vote.
I was just gonna say we have a motion and a second.
Right, let's
For
talk about it.
discussion.
Let's talk
That's
about
what
it.
I was just going to.
I'm totally oblivious to what you all are asking me to vote on right now, so
Okay.
I want to hear something.
So there were some things that, in doing a lot of research in this process, some things when I heard about some concerns, I received phone calls and I started coming in and talking to some employees, and some things were brought to my attention about a difficult, possibly a difficult work environment being created as a result of the practices of the city manager, his absenteeism, and different things. So that's hearsay, though. That's what was shared with me. And to make sure that we're being fair and impartial, I want to make sure that we look into that using an outside agency, conducting an investigation so that it could be fair for him. He'll have some direction because he does not have clear direction in a lot of areas. There are a lot of gray areas. And so that the employees will know that their concerns are being addressed.
Commissioner Gordon, are you?
Well, I think Commissioner Jones was.
Well, he put his,
No.
he
Okay,
put
go
his
ahead.
down. He
All
has,
right.
that was his answer. He wanted
So-
to answer.
So these are your concerns and you would like to move forward with
These are
investigations?
an employee's concerns that I would
Oh,
like to address.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
sir.
I haven't heard anything, but be happy to help address. the situation. I want whatever that can, we want to be completely transparent. I support that, support the staff.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we have, so we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you.
I would like to make a call for another emergency item to be added to this agenda. As stated by Commissioner Jones, as well as Ms. Givens. I personally received some information with regards to someone as a part of administration, maybe benefiting from some of the deals that are or have been pending. And I am calling for a investigation as well, looking into those matters, so that again, we are operating in transparency. I receive communication via someone dropping it off in my mailbox that was labeled as a concerned citizens of Palatka, to whomever that may be. It was provided to me. I in turn provided it to the city manager with regards to that. But I think in order with regards to the environment, that someone from the outside who does not have any buy-in or connections to Palatka would be the person that better be suited to investigate.
I second.
It's a second for the emergency items to add
Second.
to the agenda. We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Bell, he already provided some information as related to that. So there was some telemetry way back when that he provided that he had been working on. So that was portion of what he's been doing while he was away.
May I add to that? That is within Mr. Bell's scope of work. He is to lead those type of investigations and deliver the findings to us, what he had found out. And I think he has some facts that he have found, and he want an additional deeper dive into this investigation to bring some action forward. So that is definitely, I think personally, your investigation as the CEO of the city of Palatka, and your recommendation could be valid. But in light of what's going on with your investigation, I think an independent investigation is the only way you could go with this. So, but so the motion.
No, it's already
The
made.
motion.
No, we need a motion
Just
for
a discussion.
emergency.
Yeah, we already
did
did
that.
voted.
Okay.
I'll properly do it if we need to.
Well-
Attorney, do we need to?
It was already made and seconded.
The emergency-
Previous motion
was
was
for
to open
emergency.
it for an emergency motion.
That
That
wasn't what it was
was passed unanimously, and now you can state your motion.
Okay,
That was for the emergency item edition.
so this motion on the floor,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, is to allow the city manager to contact an independent investigator to assist with, take the lead on the investigation on improper conduct and or conflict of interest that may have arisen or have been going on
Second.
employees.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. With all that said, does anybody have anything else? they want to say?
Well, my whole thing is, what, given what has been provided in hand, how do we proceed forward, in hand with at least what the city manager has provided in terms of how does that work with, individuals who are still in certain capacities? And so that would be the question to the city manager or the city attorney.
I think the city manager have that.
He has the full responsibility for his staff. So we just need to understand, what does that look like going forward, given the nature and the gravity of what we're dealing with?
Commissioner Bell, Commissioner, City Manager Bell, excuse me.
So with the motion to allow me to move forward with the inquiry, into the ethics questions. It's my intent to remove the individual from situations that may butt or come up against ethical considerations with regard to contracts and projects, and until such time as the inquiry is completed.
Thank you. Just,
Anybody have any questions? Mr.
yeah,
Chair?
one other question. We have a meeting set for tomorrow. Given the nature of what because it's gonna lead into what we're going on tomorrow based on so how can we even rule or move forward on anything associated or connected with that?
It's a word.
It's a workshop.
It's a workshop.
Yeah.
Workshop.
Yeah.
It's a workshop, so we're not going to take a vote or action.
Okay, thanks.
But
I move to adjourn this meeting.
I have
Uh-oh.
Go ahead, Mr. Bell.
I wanted to make a comment. The question came up or arose about absenteeism, and I just wanted to quickly remind the commission, as well as I've received phone calls from California from colleagues across the country about this meeting and the press and their depicting this as if something was done illegal or improper. And I just wanted to make sure it's clear that nothing was done illegal or improper with regard to the leave and the leave requests. I know there's an issue has been brought up about the fact that I'm in church 6 days out of the week. And I think that's an issue that was within, that I'm handling within the contract. It is in accordance with the contract. And I think that's an issue that will be addressed. But I do want to reiterate that when I took this position, one of the challenges that I had was about my family being up north and me being down here. So all the leave that I have taken has been to be able to spend time with my family until such time as they could come here. The contract was approved on the 8th. I started work on the 9th. Didn't have that traditional 2 weeks or 30 days time period in order to be able to put affairs in order. And so it is not that I'm willy-nilly taking time and just going on vacation. It has been because I have spent time with my 10-year-old and an 11-year-old boys. And so that is critical to me. Before I'm a city manager, and being a city manager is important to me, I'm a father. And that's what I have been spending my time doing.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Second, we have a motion.